Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
President Trump says he will consider a proposal to allow some school teachers in America to carry guns in the wake of the school shooting in Florida last week, which left 17 people dead. The idea is being backed by the head of America's National Rifle Association, but Wayne LaPierre also accused those calling for tougher gun laws of exploiting last week's shooting for political gain. Our North America editor John Sopel is at the White House, and plenty of pressure on the president from both sides over this.
Yeah, Sophie, I'm sure if you're in Britain and hearing the idea that teachers could be armed, you'd think that is just the most crazy idea you've ever heard. But let me give you a flavour of what Donald Trump has said. He said, if a potential sicko shooter knows that a school has a large number of very weapons-talented teachers and others who will be instantly shooting, the sicko will never attack the school, unquote. Now, that has received strong support from the National Rifle Association, and it's been a debate that's been going on in the US for some time, but of course probably horrifies those young students who were protesting in Tallahassee in Florida yesterday, because what they want to see is comprehensive gun control measures being taken. On the other hand, Donald Trump has also tweeted today that he favours improving background checks on those buying weapons, banning bump stocks. Those are the sort of semi-automatic rifles that can suddenly be turned into machine guns via this device, and that he also wants to raise to 21 the age at which people can buy a rifle. Now, those may seem like teeny-weeny baby steps to people who want massive gun control, but in the context of American politics, those are quite radical measures and will run into strong opposition from the National Rifle Association. So whichever way Donald Trump moves, he's going to find opposition on either side of him. He's got a difficult tightrope to walk.
John Sopel, thank you.
The head of America's National Rifle Association hit back today against calls for greater gun control. Speaking in the wake of the Parkland school massacre in Florida, Wayne LaPierre said it was all about politics, not safety. Here's our Washington correspondent Robert Moore on the increasingly bitter debate.
8 days after the Florida massacre, and the NRA, America's most powerful gun lobby, is fighting back, saying the solution lies not in restricting weapons, but in turning schools into fortresses.
Schools must be the most hardened targets in this country, and evil must be confronted immediately with all necessary force to protect our kids. To stop a bad guy with a gun, it takes a good guy with a gun.
And on the NRA website, there is an astonishing attack on the media and its coverage of mass shootings.
The mainstream media love mass shootings. The dirty secret is, mass shootings have become their Game of Thrones, their House of Cards.
Last night, the president appeared an empathetic figure, listening to grieving parents and student survivors from Florida.
My beautiful daughter, I'm never going to see again.
But he then floated the idea of arming some teachers.
If you had a teacher who was adept at firearms, they could very well end the attack very quickly.
And I don't understand why I could still go in a store and buy a weapon of war.
One of those there last night was Sam Zeef, who hid from the Florida gunman, but who lost his best friend. He told me today that putting weapons into classrooms was a recipe for carnage.
That, like I've said, is absurd. That teachers should feel like they have to undergo that awesome responsibility of knowing whether or not they're going to have to point a gun at one of their students. And they're teachers. They're not law enforcement. They're not soldiers. They're here to mold and mentor young minds.
Can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
Politicians who have accepted money from the NRA are suddenly under huge pressure. This is now one of the great showdowns of recent years.
We want change! We want change!
impassioned students confronting America's most entrenched gun lobby.
Our blood! Your hands! Our blood!
Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
The head of America's National Rifle Association has hit back against calls for greater gun control. Speaking in the wake of the Parkland school massacre in Florida, Wayne LaPierre said gun control advocates are exploiting the tragedy. His comments came after Donald Trump floated his controversial proposal to halt school shootings, give the teachers guns. Washington correspondent Kylie Morris has this.
It was there, scripted in his notes. I hear you. A listening exercise for the president and his executive team live on network television, featuring the voices of the survivors and the families who lost their sons and daughters at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School.
I'm a junior and I was at Marjory Stoneman Douglas at the time of the shooting.
I'm here to use my voice because I know he can't.
I was there during the shooting and I'm a survivor.
19 years ago, the first school shooting at Columbine High School happened, and I was born into a world where I never got to experience safety and peace.
Across from Justin, Nicole Hockley, whose 6-year-old son was killed at Sandy Hook.
And after Sandy Hook, they said we wouldn't let this happen again, and yet it has continued to happen for 5 years. How many more deaths can we take as a country? How many more teenagers and 6- and 7-year-olds can we allow to die? Don't let that happen anymore on your watch.
It was as though all of America's stockpiled pain had come to settle in one room under the camera lights for an audience with Donald Trump, past master of reality TV, now president.
Thank you for pouring out your hearts because the world is watching. I'm very angry that this happened because it keeps happening.
The rawest moments, well, you can hear it for yourself. This is Andrew Pollack, the father of 18-year-old Meadow Pollack, murdered in Parkland last week.
And I'm pissed because my daughter I'm not going to see again. She's not here. She's not here. She's in North Lauderdale at whatever it is, King David Cemetery. That's where I go to see my kid now. And it stops. We all work together and come up with the right idea, and it's school safety. It's not about gun laws right now. That's another fight, another battle. Let's fix the schools, and then you guys can battle it out whatever you want. But we need our children safe.
Over a cell phone. Andrew Pollack has one focus. Forget the gun debate, he says, just secure the schools. But to the president's right, Parkland student Samuel Zaif, the same age as Andrew's daughter Meadow, he says now is the time to talk about guns.
I was reading today that a person 20 years old walked into a store and bought an AR-15 in 5 minutes with an expired ID. How is it that easy to buy this type of weapon? How do we not stop this after Columbine, after Sandy Hook? I'm sitting with a mother that lost her son. It's still happening.
There were other ideas in this stilted but free-ranging conversation, from early intervention programs to better active shooter drills in schools. But for the president, there was clearly one idea that really stood out.
It's called concealed carry, where a teacher would have a concealed gun on them. They'd go for special training, and they would be there, and you would no longer have a gun-free zone. Gun-free zone to a maniac, because they're all cowards. A gun-free zone is let's go in and let's attack, because bullets aren't coming back at us.
Your comments this week and those of our president have been pathetically weak.
Over on cable news, the same ideas were being thrashed out, but less politely. Stoneman students taking on Republican Senator Marco Rubio and the NRA, electric with grief and anger.
Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
While students fear the terms of this debate are set by the gun lobby, the president today forged into new territory, warning of the dangerous effects of violent films and video games. Tougher gun laws sinking ever lower on his to-do list.
Comes an American, Kylie Morris reporting.
I've been getting away with it.